Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Postgres Cafe, where Gulshin and I are your hosts. Gulshin, won't you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Dor and Sarah, too. I'm working at Xata for some time now, recently joined, and I work with Postgres over 12 years. I love Postgres community. I love to be part of it, and I'm happy that we are creating a new series. So thank you.
Awesome. And I'm Sarah, a Postgres enthusiast of over 12 years, and I'm just excited to talk about open source. So today we have Tudor with us to talk about a PostgreSQL library called pgzx. Tudor, I'd love to know more about how you're involved with the project and learn a little bit more about what it is and why people would want to use it.
Mhm. Hey, so I'm Tudor. I'm CTO at Zeta. I've been involved with pgzx. This is an open source project that we have released maybe about 6 months ago. And what it is, it's a framework for building Postgres extensions using the Zig programming language. It is somehow inspired by pgrx, which is the same thing but for Rust. So it makes it easier to build Postgres extensions in Rust. So we're doing kind of the same thing, but for the Zig programming language. And I'm one of the two developers that worked on pgzx, although the other one, Stefan, did most of the work. So I'm here mostly to take credit.
I like
Hey,
it.
that works for me. As long as you're here to talk about it and to help us understand a little bit more about it. So that sounds interesting. I actually haven't really worked with the Zig programming language before. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's a relatively new language. It's a systems programming language. I think of it like as a modern C. So it compiles to machine code and you can do with it manual memory management. However, it does provide more memory safety than C does, and it has a standard library and programming language features that are just modern. And personally, I find it like an elegant programming language, so I like it in itself. Now, why Zig is quite interesting to me is because it interoperates with C really good. So it is designed in such a way that you can maintain code bases that are a mix of C and Zig if you want. The Zig toolchain can compile C code, and you can do things like call functions from the C code base directly in Zig without having to create a wrapper or something like this. So you don't have to create new abstractions. You can just directly call them. And it can even translate C macros, which tend to be used a lot, for example, in the Postgres code base. It can translate those to Zig code base, which makes it even easier to fit in. So yeah, this is what I find the most interesting part about Zig.
That's actually really cool and seems like it might be a good way to help with actually contributing to Postgres now or just working on extension development in Postgres now because C isn't as prominent as it used to be, shall we
Yeah.
say, and there's definitely limitations with it. So I guess I would be curious to know, are there any compatibility issues if you had a code base that was just a wild mix of both, no rhyme or reason? Would there be any problems at any point?
Yeah, there will be like these translations of C macros, for example, is not perfect. It gives you because the preprocessor language of C is really quite complex and does a lot of things in the textual representation. The translator to Zig does it the best it can. It gives you a good starting point, but it's not perfect for sure. And then there's things like UTF-8 support and so on, which like in C, you typically just have string of bytes. You have to figure out, okay, how do you represent those correctly in Zig, this sort of thing. So I would say and this tends to happen. I think maybe it will happen more when there's like this such a large code base of C code around, and you'd like to maybe try another language to add new features, which will have more memory safety and so on. You have the Rust is definitely popular for that use case, but Zig is also an option. And we've seen this happening with some code bases.
See.
That totally makes sense. Thank you for explaining.
And when I was in OSS Vienna this year, we had a booth at Zeta, and people came to the booth and they noticed like there's pgzx, and people were like, is it related to pgrx or something? And then when I talk to people, because for me as well, Zik is new language. I really don't know like how to compare it with, I don't know, C, Rust versus Zik comparison. But lots of embedded developers, they were so excited about Zik. It's
Ah,
like
yes,
I just
yes.
listened all the embedded developers. I think it was become really popular when I asked, so what do you think about Zik? And they were like, all the embedded developers were in the booth. But yeah, I was wondering what makes it so interesting for everybody and you. What is the features that you like the most about Zik?
Mhm. Yeah, so besides this C story, my favorite Zig feature is something called comp time. It's compile time execution. And what it means, basically, how it sounds, that there's code that you can use at the compile time, a little bit similar again with the C preprocessor macros.
Mhm.
But this is cool that it's actually in the Zig language. And it's also a little bit works a little bit different, but you can execute code at compile time, then defines the run behavior instead of writing directly the write time behavior. And this sounds like a niche feature, like niche programming language feature, but turns out it's actually really useful in creating elegant code, which I was personally quite surprised about. One common example is in Zig, there are no generics as such. And me coming from Golang, generic support was a long source of disagreement in the community, because generics do make the language more complicated, but they're also really useful. So there's eventually Go has edited them. In Zig, there's no direct support for generics, but actually you can use comp time to get the same functionality very easily. So that's why I like it. It feels like a quite nice feature. I think we'll see this spreading out to other languages as well. Seems like a really good idea.
Okay. Like, give me some things to think. Gave me some things to think. And about the Rust, because it's always compared to the again in the I'm referring to the latest event that I joined, because there was like this the Linus Torvalds has the keynote, and then he's comparing like why Rust is actually now becoming prominent as well. And there are some C developers that are taking it personally because they are like developing for all their life in C, right? And some people even left the community because of it. They just quit like the being kernel developer, and because they don't want to do it anymore, because it says they don't really want to do anything with Rust. So I feel like it can really divert people. Like C Rust is a big thing, but I feel like Zik is in the middle. I don't think it like takes the
Yeah.
the side by side. And so I wanted like how it's compared to pgrx and how these two
Mhm.
languages compare to each other as well.
Yeah, and this is definitely the most common question that we get when we talk about pgzx, and it's a fair question. And first of all, what I want to say is that I really hope that nothing that we do with pgzx in any way slows down the momentum of pgrx, because I think that's a really important project for the Postgres community. And the reason I say I think it's very important is that Rust can actually guarantee memory safety. It is though quite tricky in Postgres, because with Postgres extensions, you typically do them so that you can call into the Postgres functionality, and then the Postgres code base might call back into the extension. So it will be a mix of safe and unsafe code at the same time. So while Rust can guarantee that the safety part is safe, there will be unsafe C code involved as well. There's not much you can do. So then you have to write these abstractions that need to be done very carefully, and that it can guarantee memory safety. And this is what pgrx does. It is a lot of work in order to have all the Postgres subsystems correctly abstracted way. And basically, there's a new extension API in Rust. Then you can use long term. I think this is really good, and like Rust is making headways in the Linux kernel as well. I think it definitely has a place in the Postgres code base as well. But as of right now, you can do more as a row C extension compared to what you can do as a pgrx extension, because not all abstractions are there yet, or they're not good defined as well. And Zig, like you said, it comes in the middle. It doesn't offer this compile time guarantee of safety, but it has a runtime that can check for the common error conditions like buffer overflows or using null pointers. These sort of things, they are checked by the Zig runtime, and that will make it more make it a more memory safety language compared to C, but not as it's like the middle ground between C and Rust. However, because you can call all the C code from it, all the Postgres C code from it, whatever you can do as a Postgres C extension, you can do as a Zig extension as well. In some cases, it's a little bit difficult, like we were discussing before, with maybe some C macros don't get translated so well and so on. But that's actually what pgzx does. It provides these very lightweight abstractions, and some macros are translated by hand by us in Zig code. So we make that easier. But if there's something that we haven't done yet, it will be easy for the first programmer that needs it to add it. They wouldn't have to take this detour of 1 month to add the abstraction for it, right? So that's why it's a little bit of a middle ground between doing like a C extension in directly, which was what people did so far, and using something like pgrx.
I see. It will probably improve people, maybe the speed of, as Sarah was saying, so to be able to contribute to create an extension, maybe that will, if already allows you to develop faster because there are the abstractions away. And I feel like still closer to C than Rust, right? So
It is, yeah.
then if you know C already, and if you still don't want to develop in that, or you want to switch, I think it is like much closer. So Zig allows actually a little bit more comfortable switch if you wants to, maybe for modern developer who actually knows the C,
Yeah.
types of the C, but wants to get a bit more modern C version.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of hoping. I'm wondering if the more people find out about Zig, how quickly it's going to actually grow in the Postgres ecosystem. What are your thoughts on that?
I sure hope it grows. And I think, like you said, also philosophically, it's closer to C, so it might be easier for the Postgres developers to accept it as a new language compared to Rust. And also, if you just look at things like in Postgres, you have memory contexts, which are kind of memory arenas, and this is what they are called in Zig, but they are the same concept, which makes it actually quite easy to use them in Zig without having to do a very complicated abstraction layer that translates between one or the other. They fit quite good. And there's more examples like that. And one thing we did in pgzx, for example, we did an abstraction from the Postgres error reporting code, which uses long jumps and is pretty complicated, some macros and so on. And we matched that with the Zig error reporting. In Zig, you can return errors from any function as a kind of like an extra return parameter, similar to how they work in Go. And so we could match those pretty easily between them. And then the Zig code can be much simpler, and it's nicer to use. So yeah, I think this project is the first kind of connection point between these two communities, which I really like both of them. So hopefully this will grow further. I think both the Postgres and the Zig community have a lot to win from each other. So yeah, I hope this will go well.
I can definitely see that. Out of curiosity, do you happen to have any advice for someone who wants to get started in learning Zig for the first time, beyond just go to the website, figure it out type of thing? Are there any special like resources or anything that you would recommend for getting started?
Yeah, and just a word of caution, Zig is new enough that there's not yet a 1.0 version, so things are changing all the time. The resource that I use is called Zig Guide. It's actually like an interactive sort of tutorial. So that's what I use to start, and I think it's quite well written. I hope it's up to date with the latest version and so on. But yeah, it's an early language, so they are breaking changes and such. Some things are tried out, they don't work out, so you have to expect those sort of things. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to learn.
Good.
Cool.
Thank you, Tudor. This was like a good overview of things, and I hope nobody will quit Postgres community because there is big developers coming or something.
The Zig developers are coming. They're coming.
They are coming. Rust people are already at the door.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we get at conference some people that come. It's usually Rust developers that are upset that we're doing this. But as I said, we're not trying to slow down that effort. This is just another kind of like another option if you want.
Of course. Yeah.
That's the great thing about open source is that there's always an option for everyone, and you can use more than one. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You can you can take a moment to assess the use cases and choose which one is right for your use case and just use it and equally develop them all. It's great. Anyways, thank you very much for joining us today and explaining everything. It was a super interesting topic.
I think it's quite cool, new, and I think it's like more people wants to hear it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, and bye-bye. Until next time.
Thank you. Bye.